The galaxy watched the broadcast, as if the screens themselves were holding their breath. 1,000 species, 1,000 worlds, all tuned to the same imperial feed at the same trembling hour. The High Imperator's voice, sharp as a plasma hook, cut through the dark like a blade meant to wound rather than inform. The human woman General Elara North, age 34, has been executed for crimes against the Galactic Empire, he declared with a pride no one admired. Behind him, Elara's still form lay on a cold silver slab, draped in the Empire's colors, as though some twisted pageant crowned her as their trophy. The Imperator paused theatrically, expecting applause or cheers. Instead, the galaxy gave him confusion, then unease, then something even he could identify: dread. Aliens whispered among themselves. Humans will cry, one said. Humans will panic, guessed another. A smug minister added. Humans are too emotional to retaliate properly. They collapse when their hearts break. Yet an elder of the moss-skinned Valerii shook his head, vines rustling like warning chimes. You do not understand humans, he murmured. They will smile first. Most laughed. They shouldn't have. For at that moment, across the Sol system, humans were doing something far more terrifying than panicking. They were going quiet. Earth's representative to the Galactic Senate appeared next on screen. Commander Jonah Hale, age 40, hair neatly brushed back, uniform precise enough to shame a drill sergeant, stepped into the frame with a steaming thermos of coffee marked with a cheerful Earth phrase, "World's nicest threat." He smiled gently, the kind of smile humans used before either proposing marriage or flipping the entire board over. "Thank you for the update," Jonah said pleasantly, as if the Empire had just announced a weather pattern rather than a political execution. "General Elara North was my mentor and friend. I appreciate your clarity on her status." The Senate chamber, half holographic, half physical, fell into an uneasy hush. A reptilian senator exchanged glances with a floating jelly diplomat. Was Jonah thanking them? Was this grief? Acceptance? Forgiveness? They couldn't decide, and Jonah did not help them. He merely took a sip of his coffee with polite ease, savoring it as though the flavor outweighed the enormity of the moment. "We humans value closure," he continued. "You've given us that today. Sincerely." If the aliens had understood human culture even a fragment better, they would have realized that sincerely delivered in a soft tone from a calm human man was not gratitude, but a threat wrapped in satin. But the Imperator, emboldened by ignorance, replied, "Your species' resistance ends here. This is mercy." His smile was all steel and triumph. Jonah's, by contrast, was warm as a summer afternoon. The contrast unsettled more than the content did. "Of course," Jonah said. "Mercy." He said the word as though testing it on his tongue, weighing it against a scale no alien could read. "We'll respond accordingly." The Senate erupted in chatter. What did accordingly mean? The humans had always prefaced their ugliest strategies with politeness. They held meetings with coffee and courtesy, only to emerge with battle plans so precise entire fleets vanished within minutes. Jonah never reminded them of this. He simply offered cookies. Literally. He placed a metal tin on the table, sliding it toward the Imperator's projected image with friendly confidence. "Chocolate chip," he said. "A human comfort snack. Helps soften difficult conversations." The Imperator looked at it like it was a bomb. In a way it was, just not in the way he understood. The gesture wasn't kindness. It was ritual. And when humans ritualized something, they committed to it fully. Across human space, diplomats were being quietly recalled. Civilians were being moved off stations with clockwork precision. Patrol vessels vanished from obvious routes. Satellites blinked out one by one, not from attack, but because humans turned them off intentionally. Every alien species monitoring Earth saw the same terrifying pattern. Humans weren't defending. Humans were preparing. Jonah continued his immaculate politeness. "Before we proceed with the proportional response, please accept a gesture of goodwill. Earth will temporarily withdraw from Senate discussions. It's important we gather ourselves before taking our next steps." Somehow, his tone was not soothing but brittle, like ice stretched thin across a deep lake. No one could see what lurked beneath, but every instinct screamed danger. "What steps?" a senator demanded. Jonah tilted his head in a gentle, almost fatherly manner. "Don't worry. We're just opening something we haven't used in a while. The emergency barbecue kit." Aliens stared. A robot scribe whispered aloud, "What is a barbecue?" Jonah winked. "Fire. Lots of fire. You'll love it." Humor, the aliens assumed. Except Jonah's eyes didn't match the smile. At that moment, the Imperator's confidence flickered. "You cannot frighten the Empire," he snapped. Jonah raised his thermos slightly in a toast. "Of course not. You already seem perfectly frightened on your own." His voice remained gentle, but the room felt colder than the vacuum outside. Even the jelly diplomat contracted into a smaller sphere. On Earth, fleets began shifting in clean, silent lines. Starships drifted into formation around Lunar Command like beads drawn toward a magnet. No announcements. No boasts. Only the kind of silence that predates storms. The wise aliens watching the patterns whispered, "This is not retreat. This is redirection." And they were right. The Imperator tried to salvage his stage. "Humanity is broken," he declared. "Your grief will paralyze you." Jonah blinked slowly. "Grief doesn't paralyze us," he said. "It focuses us." He placed the thermos down gently, as though setting aside sentiment. General Ilera taught restraint. "You have removed the only person who kept us moderate." That sentence rippled through the Senate like a sonic wave. Jonah inhaled deeply, as if steadying emotions the room could not see. "We thank you for the clarity of your action. You've accelerated decisions we hoped never to revisit." The senators now looked at him as prey looks at a shadow that doesn't match the creature casting it. Jonah added softly, "Phase 1 is complete." The Imperator startled. "Phase 1? What is?" He never finished. All across the galaxy, long-range sensors detected thousands of human ships blinking out of standard space. Not destroyed. Not jammed. Gone. Their signatures vanished like breathing cut short. Entire human armadas stepped into the dark areas between known routes, places even the Empire refused to chart. The Senate chamber erupted in panic. Where are they going? Why disappear? What are they building? Jonah answered none of them. He simply stood, buttoned his uniform jacket, and nodded once. "Thank you for your hospitality," he said. "We'll be in touch." He ended the transmission with the same politeness someone might use to excuse themselves from a dinner table. For several seconds, the Senate stared at the empty space where his hologram had been. The Imperator's bravado drained visibly, as if someone had pulled gravity out from under him. "Find those fleets," he ordered shakily. "Track them. Now." Technicians scrambled. Systems hummed and chirped. But every display delivered the same chilling message. No human signatures detected. A young alien cadet whispered the final sentence of the night, voice trembling with the certainty of doom. "Sir, humans don't vanish unless they want to." The Imperator tried to reply, but before he spoke, every star map across the Senate flickered. New readings surfaced, massive gravitational anomalies forming near forgotten sectors. Human signals, faint but deliberate. Someone gasped. Someone prayed. Jonah's voice, pre-recorded, echoed suddenly across the chamber, soft as a ghost beside their ears. "Phase 2 begins when the lights go out." And then the lights went out. Panic spread through the Empire like a fever with no cure, creeping into halls that once felt invincible. Ministers barked conflicting theories, analysts contradicted each other, and every intercepted human transmission made things worse. The humans were quiet, too quiet, and the galaxy had spent centuries learning that human silence was never the absence of intention, but the sharpening of it. Ships vanishing into dark sectors, satellites going dark voluntarily, diplomats retrieving themselves without explanation. Everything pointed toward an incoming storm no one could predict. Yet most insisted hope remained, as though the absence of explosions meant safety rather than planning. The Valerii elder murmured that humans gather kindness the way predators examine bones. Thoughtfully, patiently, with intent no prey wants clarified. On a mid-tier Empire world called Heroin Station, Commander Jonah Hale stepped off a shuttle carrying a bright blue gift bag. Inside were items alien scholars were already panicking about: a bag of Earth-roasted coffee, a playlist chip of American country songs, and a hand-woven friendship bracelet labeled, "From Earth with Love." Officials lined up with stiff smiles, unsure whether this was diplomacy or mockery. Jonah's pleasant tone didn't help. "Thank you for hosting me. We brought treats. It's amazing how generosity can warm a tense atmosphere." Aliens exchanged confused glances. The heroin governor whispered, "Are these gifts a threat?" Jonah smiled. "Only if your conscience is loud." The governor guided him through the station halls, rambling apologies and nervous flattery. Jonah nodded calmly at every remark, offering no hint of anger or vengeance. His demeanor soothed and frightened simultaneously. "We heard Earth suffered a tragedy," the governor said finally. "Our condolences." Jonah paused long enough to unsettle everyone, then answered, "Condolences are kind. Kindness is rare these days." His voice never shook. He sounded like a man grieving politely, which was arguably worse than shouting. He accepted their condolences the way a surgeon accepts a scalpel, knowing the next step would draw blood. As Jonah toured the station, Heroin security feeds captured glimpses of strange human activity across the galaxy. Human civilians returned home en masse. Freight carriers moved tungsten, helium-3, and thermal capacitors. Mining worlds stopped exporting resources to the Empire and sent them inward instead. Human engineers installed classified modules on dormant star fortresses. Even more unsettling were the shipments of glitter paint. No one knew its purpose. Analysts argued whether it was psychological warfare, cultural mockery, or simply unhinged creativity. Jonah, hearing their debate through a calm tap, chuckled quietly. "Humans get artsy under stress," he said, offering no clearer explanation. Empire scouts who attempted to tail human fleets reported confusing structures forming in the dark between stars. Rumors spread of arcs of light, ring-like frames, and disruptive gravity pulses. One transmission ended with the scout screaming, "It's a cage, no a corridor, no something else," before their signal vanished. The Empire blamed static. Everyone else blamed humanity. Some senators claimed humans were preparing a superweapon. Others insisted humans were bluffing. But the Empire had underestimated humans before and buried the consequences afterward. The galaxy whispered that no species hides their claws better than humans, because humans never wanted anyone to know they had claws in the first place. Jonah's next meeting with Heroin's officers played out like gentle torture. He sat in a conference room sipping coffee while the officers cycled through fear, accusation, bargaining, and denial. "Tell us what your people are doing," demanded one officer. Jonah considered his cup. "Making decisions." Another officer slammed a holographic tablet. "You are preparing for war." Jonah shook his head lightly. "Preparing implies we weren't ready." Their tempers rose while his remained steady, a controlled warmth that hinted at something dangerous beneath. He leaned back, smiling faintly. "General Alera believed in diplomacy. You killed her. So now I'm here, honoring her memory by being polite." His politeness burned more than any insult. Heroin's administrators tried to convince him the Empire's action was justified. Jonah listened with the patience of a parent, hearing a child lie about breaking a window. "Your Empire claims authority over suffering," he said softly. "Ours claims responsibility for ending it." Officers glared at him, but none contradicted him. Jonah slid the friendship bracelet across the table. "In human culture, these represent loyalty. I brought one for your Imperator too." The gesture struck them harder than any weapon. It implied a farewell ritual. It implied finality. No one dared touch it. News spread that human fleets near the Varric line had activated silent running protocols. Other fleets shifted into formations that mirrored historical Earth war patterns, arrangements used only in battles where humans never intended to retreat. Alien scholars recognized the shapes with horror. Some ships even broadcast faint, eerie Earth melodies, as though humming to themselves before action. The Empire demanded these movements stop. Humanity ignored them. Jonah politely forwarded the Empire's complaints to Earth with a note. They're concerned. Should we reassure them? The silence that followed was worse than laughter. As Jonah prepared to leave Heroin Station, alarms blared across the Empire. Long-range telescopes detected a massive structure blooming in a forgotten sector. Its silhouette was enormous, ringed, architecturally elegant in a way no alien species recognized. The structure pulsed intermittently, each rhythm matching a pattern of human gravitic signatures. Quiet speculation erupted into terror when someone whispered the phrase no one wanted to consider. They're building a trap. Others argued it was a weapon. A few feared it was both. The galaxy leaned toward panic. Jonah stepped into the shuttle bay, pausing as the Heroin governor hurried to him. "Commander," the governor pleaded, "whatever your species is planning, surely it isn't too late to negotiate?" Jonah turned with a kindness that wasn't comforting. "We always negotiate," he answered. "Sometimes we negotiate before consequences. Sometimes after." He clasped the governor's shoulder. "Be grateful you weren't part of the decision." The governor stared helplessly. "What decision?" Jonah smiled with genuine softness, though his eyes carried the coldness of strategy already in motion. "Phase 2. It begins soon." He boarded his shuttle without elaboration. The hatch closed with quiet finality. Moments later, Heroin's sky flickered as emergency broadcasts compiled every new human movement into a single, horrifying projection. Across the galaxy, human fleets were converging with perfect synchronization toward the anomaly. Energy readings rose. Space distorted. Even sensors began trembling. One terrified analyst whispered the last thought Heroin would hear before its comms collapsed under the strain. "They weren't hiding from us. They were hiding something for us." And then the anomaly opened. The anomaly blossomed like a wound in space, twisting light into spirals that made even hardened alien captains tremble. Across the galaxy, thousands watched the rupture widen, revealing silhouettes of human ships arranged with unsettling precision. They moved neither like prey nor conquerors, but like surgeons preparing an operation. The Empire's command screens filled with frantic calculations, none offering comfort. Even before the first transmission, everyone understood humanity had crossed a threshold. And when Jonah Hale's calm face appeared within the shimmering portal, the silence that followed felt heavier than the vacuum outside. "You seem alarmed," Jonah said, voice soft as snowfall. Behind him, the geometric lattice of the human structure pulsed with slow, deliberate light. "Don't be. Stress shortens lifespans." His attempt at reassurance only deepened dread. Empire strategists scrambled to decode the background patterns, convinced each flicker carried hidden meaning. They were right. The structure was far more than a weapon. It was a statement, a demonstration of what humans achieved when grief stripped away restraint. Jonah's expression held no anger, just quiet purpose, as though he were gently preparing the galaxy for an unpleasant but necessary truth. Inside the Imperial War Room, panic spread beneath a veneer of authority. Admirals shouted over one another, demanding explanations no one possessed. A young technician replayed the anomaly readings repeatedly, hoping repetition might reveal mercy somewhere in the data. It did not. Every pattern pointed to orchestration so meticulous it bordered on divine. "How long have the humans been planning this?" one admiral whispered. The silence that followed was its own answer. Humanity, once mocked as impulsive, emotional, undisciplined, had unveiled coordination rivaling the oldest empires. Their teeth had always been hidden behind smiles. Now, those smiles had become warnings. Jonah appeared again across Imperial channels, his image stable despite the chaos around him. He stood with hands clasped behind his back, posture crisp with military discipline softened by human warmth. "The Empire believes our grief weakens us," he began. "It doesn't. It clarifies us." His words slid into the room like surgical blades. General Ilera North taught restraint. You removed that restraint. So now we operate with full transparency. He stepped aside, revealing a star map marked with thousands of human gravitic signatures embedded across hyperspace corridors. Gasps filled the chamber. The Empire had been surrounded long before Alara's execution. Imperial scientists scrambled to assess the devices, but the readings were beyond their comprehension. Each gravitic seed hummed with a frequency resembling heartbeat rhythms, perfectly synchronized despite spanning light years. "They're connected," murmured a physicist. "Like nerves in a living organism." Jonah nodded on screen. "Close enough. Humanity likes symmetry." When the Imperator demanded he deactivate them, Jonah offered a sympathetic smile. "I can't. They're part of the environment now." Terror replaced outrage as realization dawned. Humanity had weaponized the very fabric of travel. Hyperspace, once the Empire's greatest advantage, now lay under human jurisdiction with the casual permanence of rewritten physics. In the shadows of the war room, a seasoned general, older than most empires, whispered, "We have awakened something ancient in them." His words crawled through the silence like a prophecy already fulfilled. Jonah did not deny it. Instead, he softened his voice. "We wanted peace. We begged for it. But peace is a partnership, not a leash." He stepped closer to the holographic interface. "So now we remove the leash." Lights dimmed as the gravitic signatures flickered in eerie unison, forming patterns the Empire could not decode. Jonah's eyes shone with grief sharpened into resolve, a quiet fury distilled into strategy. An admiral finally snapped. "If you attack, we will retaliate with everything we have." Jonah looked genuinely saddened. "You misunderstand. Retaliation implies sequence. This is simultaneity." He raised a hand and the star map shifted, highlighting key Imperial supply lines, shipyards, and communication hubs. "Your empire is built on predictable arteries. We have simply adjusted their circulation." The admiral roared that this was an act of war. Jonah shook his head. "War began the moment you executed her." The room froze. Everyone knew who he meant. Alara's absence echoed like a bell struck once yet endlessly ringing. The Imperator attempted one final show of dominance. "Deactivate your devices, Commander, or we will annihilate your colonies." Jonah's expression did not change, but the temperature in the room seemed to drop. "Our colonies?" he repeated. "You still don't understand. Humanity doesn't isolate its value to territory. We carry our worlds with us." He tapped his chest lightly. "And we don't abandon them." A new set of coordinates illuminated, this time within Imperial territory. Human ships were already there, silent, patient, precise. The war room erupted into chaos. Jonah watched their panic with sorrow, not satisfaction. "You forced our hand," he whispered. Before the Imperator could issue another command, alarms wailed. Hyperspace lanes across the Empire flickered, destabilizing under the synchronized pulse of human gravitic seeds. Transport routes collapsed. Supply chains dissolved. Entire fleets found themselves cut off in void space, isolated without warning. Screens filled with red alerts. Jonah's image shimmered as feedback rippled through the grid. "We will not destroy your civilians," he said. "We aren't you." His tone remained gentle, but the accusations struck like artillery. "We will dismantle your capacity to harm others. Efficiently. Cleanly." His gaze shifted, softer now. "For Alara, and for everyone your empire silenced." The war room descended into despair as systems failed one by one, but Jonah's final transmission cut through the chaos with chilling clarity. His image steadied, framed by the glow of the colossal human structure behind him. "Phase 3 begins now," he said. "When next we speak, the empire you knew will no longer exist." The transmission crackled as gravitational distortion intensified, swallowing star maps and drowning sensor feeds in static. In the final second before the signal collapsed, another figure appeared beside Jonah, a silhouette unmistakably shaped like Alara North. Her eyes opened. Her voice, faint but alive, whispered, "Remember me?" And so the galaxy understood humanity was never finished. The galaxy felt smaller as the Empire's borders buckled under gravitational pulses that rippled like distant thunder. Each wave was controlled, measured, unmistakably human in its precision. Supply lines vanished. War factories flickered offline. Imperial dreadnoughts found themselves drifting helplessly in distorted space, unable to retreat or even scream for help. Yet there were no civilian casualties. No scorched worlds, no chaotic rampage. The restraint only made the terror sharper. Humanity was not lashing out. Humanity was demonstrating mastery. And when Jonah Hale appeared on every Imperial screen, framed by the luminous colossus humans had built, no one mistook his presence for negotiation. "You still misunderstand us," Jonah said softly. Behind him, Ilara's holographic form stabilized, her uploaded consciousness glowing with a calm that chilled the room. Imperial commanders stared, unable to reconcile the woman they'd executed with the presence, now standing beside the human tactician. Jonah continued. "You thought killing one general would break our spirit. But Ilara wasn't merely a leader. She was an instructor. She taught us how far we could go, and how far we shouldn't." His gaze swept across the trembling admirals. "You removed the boundary. You created the version of us you now fear." Across the Empire, fleets scrambled to reorient themselves. They fired test shots at the gravitic seeds humans had embedded in hyperspace lanes. The blasts dissolved into nothing. Countermeasures failed. Their technology, once unmatched, now looked primitive. Imperial scientists whispered that humanity had somehow rewritten the physics around their networks, creating new rules with no regard for permission. Jonah addressed their confusion with gentle precision. "Technology is only limited by the imagination behind it. And humans? We imagine painfully well when we grieve." Ilara's voice resonated then, clear and composed. "Your empire thrives on obedience. On silence. On fear. You believed a single execution would erase a lifetime of work." She turned her holographic gaze downward, as if studying the galaxy like a strategist examines a battlefield map. "Instead, you have ensured we complete what we began." Her tone carried no hatred, only an eerie steadiness that froze the heart of every listener. A consciousness unbound by flesh, still burning with purpose, terrified them more than any weapon. In response, the Imperator appeared through a strained, flickering transmission. His crown was tilted, his voice cracked with desperation masquerading as authority. "Humanity will cease its aggression immediately," he commanded. "Or we will retaliate with everything we have left." Jonah regarded him, the way a patient teacher regards a child refusing to understand a simple lesson. "You no longer have the ability to retaliate," Jonah said. "We've removed that option to spare unnecessary loss." His tone carried neither arrogance nor cruelty. It was a statement of fact delivered with surgical poise. Imperial defense grids overloaded as human fleets emerged, not in scattered formations, but as a synchronized ring around the Imperial core system. Thousands of ships, their hulls shimmering with the pale glow of candlelight energy, encircled the throne world. Yet none fired. They hovered in absolute silence, a halo of judgment. Jonah explained. "This is planned candlelight. Not annihilation. Illumination." Light pulsed behind him as the giant human structure activated, bathing the system in a soft radiance that revealed every hidden weapon, every cloaked fortress, every secret facility buried under planetary crust. Nothing remained concealed. Candlelight didn't destroy, it exposed. Imperial soldiers faltered as their darkest secrets appeared across the sky like constellations of guilt. Worlds they'd subjugated demanded justice. Species long oppressed rose with sudden clarity. Entire fleets surrendered without human interference, overwhelmed not by violence but by truth. Jonah spoke quietly as Imperial society unraveled beneath the weight of its own reflection. "Your empire depended on shadows. We have simply removed the darkness." The Imperator, shaking now, attempted to rally his final command fleet. Ships accelerated toward the human encirclement in a desperate, reckless charge. For a brief moment, hope flickered in Imperial hearts, the kind born from denial rather than reason. But as the fleet closed in, Ilara extended a hand. The human structure flared with a single pulse. Not an explosion. Not a weapon. A gravitational sigh. The Empire's last armada froze mid-flight, held gently in place as if caught in invisible hands. Engines fired, lights flickered, but nothing moved. Ships hung suspended in a vast cosmic stillness. Elara spoke, her voice a whisper woven into starlight. Violence is unnecessary. You've already lost. Jonah stepped forward, the calm in his expression radiating more authority than any crown. We will dismantle your war machine, he told the Imperator. Piece by piece. With precision. Without spite. The Imperator finally broke, collapsing into his throne, as every monitor around him displayed helpless ships frozen under candlelight's grip. Jonah continued. This is justice. Not vengeance. His voice held an ache, a softness that implied what victory had cost. Humanity could win wars, but losing Elara in body, not spirit, had marked them deeply. Human operatives deployed across the Imperial core, disabling command relay stations, and seizing control of military infrastructure. No bloodshed. No screams. Only swift, coordinated dismantling. Candlelight guided them like a map etched into the fabric of space. Within hours, the Empire's entire tactical network fell silent. Civilians watched in disbelief as human forces bypassed their homes, targeting only stations of oppression. For the first time in centuries, the skies above their worlds felt protective rather than threatening. Elara turned to Jonah, her expression softened by memory encoded in light. They feared our rage, she said. But they should have feared our discipline. Jonah's throat tightened. We learned it from you. Their exchange, brief yet profound, echoed across every display, a reminder that humanity's strength had never been in cruelty but in unity, forged from loss, anchored by loyalty. As the Imperator was taken into custody, he voiced one final question through trembling lips. Why spare us? Jonah's reply carried the triumphant calm of a species choosing its future, rather than repeating the mistakes of its enemies. Because mercy is power you never understood. And because the galaxy needs rebuilding, not ruins. Candlelight dimmed gradually, like the settling breath after a storm. Human ships lowered their weapons. The Empire, stripped of its machinery of dominance, stood exposed yet alive, ready to face judgment not from destruction but from truth. Jonah addressed the galaxy one last time, his voice steady and warm. Plan Candlelight is complete. Humanity extends its hand, not as conquerors, but as equals seeking peace earned through clarity. The screen faded on his final, gentle words. Thank you for your cooperation.